people can interact with everyone so much now that I think sometimes people just want their humanity checked. They just want to be like, hey, you're a person. I'm a person too. And I go through this. And I think that's like the best thing that Jay and I can provide for people is just like, hey, we're just two guys getting stoned, watching YouTube videos and news stories that we've watched. And probably some of this is going to be wrong. And it's been a savior. You know, we're finding a new home at Sirius XM right now, but for the pandemic and having this, like, stand-up was always the way that I kind of just filtered everything. I was just like, oh man, if I feel like this, I can go talk about it. And if people laugh at it, a lot of times that's like, there's empathy in that laugh because they understand. So it was like this thing. So then being shut off from that, you're kind of in this weird position where you're like, fuck man, well, my humor was always used. I developed my sense of humor because I was in very uncomfortable situations growing up, that the only way to get through it was like, hey, let's just fucking make fun of this, huh? This is fucking, I think that's who I'd be on the guy. You know, if I was on the Titanic, I'd just be the guy that's like, fucking, I shouldn't have taken this job. Or just
right.
Something like, I'd be bitching to the guy to the right of me, like, women and children first, am I right? Fucking, that's exactly, because that's who that was my dad's attitude. And that's kind of like, I see a lot of that in myself of like, when shit hits the fan, sometimes you're just broken down to, if you're not freaking out, you're kind of like, well, what are we fucking doing here?
Yeah, man. You went through it. Like your father, your family, you lost a couple people. And like, do you think that you became, I'm going to joke my way through it because it happened? Or do you think like you were already that way? And
I think I was a silly kid. I was like a really silly kid, and I just liked being silly, and like I was obsessed with the Simpsons and like doing voices, which I would be canceled for now.
Oh man, so that's interesting too though. It's like you can do those voices, but do you think that's a little like nature versus nurture? Were you watching those shows and trying to do it, or you think you have the talent to do that? Man,
I made my dad pop with I made all my friends at school pop with like my Apu, which from the Simpsons, which was just like the first voice that I could even kind of do. And I was like, oh, that was fun. And then when I learned how to do like a Rodney Dangerfield, my dad was like, that's fucking funny. My dad, I just remember, but like, yeah, it was like a thing of like, oh, this is fun. This is fun to make people laugh. I liked getting in, like, if I got in trouble in school, sent out to the hallway for a good joke, I was like, well, you know, what are we doing?
Accomplished.
That was a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you can make someone like your dad laugh in that setting, that's, to me, that is like when your older brother or your dad or someone you've looked up to is like, wow, you are the one entertaining me. I wish I could do what you could do. It's like, whoa, holy shit.
I mean, that's always been the thing, I think, for all comics is when you have an older comic be like, that's a really funny joke. And you're like, what?
Wow.
You're like, huh? Like Attell hit me with that when I first got past the cellar. Like that homeless drinking joke's really funny. And I was like, thank you.
Attell's the one, right? I mean, every time I've talked to you guys over the last however many years, all the comics I talked to, Attell is like the comics comic.
Yeah, Attell and Colin Quinn.
And Patrice, of course, right? Everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we're going living.
Yeah.
I mean,
can I just quickly ask a question about Patrice?
Yeah.
And it might sound disrespectful, but like, is he as good as it's?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's not one of those like, you know, he's regarded because he died. It's like he really was that dude, huh?
Yeah, comics have a gravity to them, like how good a comic is how much do they suck you in and you just want to listen to them talk? Like how much is their gravity? And like Chappelle's got a gravity that's, I think, the best, where you just you can listen to him. I've watched him at the cellar for 3 hours.
Right. It's not even joking necessarily. It's just like
he's just talking.
Like, here you go. Yeah.
Big J's got that gravity.
Big time,
Michael Che's got that gravity. I've seen guys that just have it, that can just sit and kind of toy with it. Patrice was like another level. Like I wasn't friends with Patrice. I think I spoke to him 3 times in passing. One of the times we were walking to the cellar and I was with Joe List. Joe List had kind of knew Patrice, and it was like Joe List, me, Norman, and someone else. And we're walking to the cellar, and none of us were past there. And Patrice was leaving, and he just goes, "What's up, Joe?" Joe goes, "What's up, Patrice?" And Patrice goes, "What's up, Joe?" And he's like walking out, and he goes, "I don't want to meet any of your goofy friends." Like, shit. All right, sorry, Patrice. But yeah, man, he like. Bill Burr and Patrice O'Neal to me are the two like comics that went from like I went from. It's hard to explain because like I grew up loving Chappelle and George Carlin and Rodney Dangerfield, and you like watch all these guys and you like love all their stuff, and then you start getting more into comedy and you start listening to Stanhope and Hedberg, and you start going to like Geraldo, and you start, for me it was like Opie and Anthony blew open that door for me, and I learned about Burr and Patrice, and learned more about, I mean, I love Jim Norton. Jim Norton's one of the guys that I would say was one of my favorite comics for a while, and it was just cool to be able to get to know him. But yeah, and it's like you start finding your way, and you start watching Bill Hicks, and you start watching like old Richard Pryor. I always hated when I heard comics be like, I remember being 11 years old and watching Richard Pryor. It's like, motherfucker, you like Robin Williams like the rest of us.
Get out of here.
Dana Carvey's Critics' Choice is one of the most influential specials of my life. 1995 HBO special. Hit me right at the right age. I was obsessed with Dana Carvey. That special to this day means more to me than like Zeppelin 2. It's like, yeah, Zeppelin 2 is cool. Fucking Dana Carvey Critics' Choice HBO special. David Spade's Take the Hit, which I learned about later in life. I missed that one when I was young. All those become like these like iconic albums and shit. But then when you get to New York and you see the people making the sausage, you're like, oh shit. Like Dave Attell's the greatest. Greg Giraldo. You watch, Bill Burr just moved to LA when I moved to New York, but he would come back and have these sets and you'd be like, Jesus fucking Christ. Patrice. It was just like watching guys like that. You'd be like, oh man. And then you'd go to Creek in the Cave, or you'd go bomb at Ochi's Lounge and just fucking eat it, or Broadway and just fucking tank.